I love their little whiskers.
They move funny. They fall over and it's normal.
I've just never seen anything like it before. And potentially it's because they're so unique that I'm so fascinated.
I was blown away by this species. They're quite a character. They can't fly. They have this intense smell. You just don't get that with other birds.
It would be such a loss to New Zealand if we didn't have this species anymore.
The 2019 breeding season for kakapo has been immense. People were ready, Doc got us on board really early, but no one predicted how big it was going to be. Kakapo really don't breed very often. It's only when the rimu trees are in mast, which is maybe only every 3 or 4 years. And actually on Whenua Hou, one of the islands where there's most of the kakapo, it's only been such a big mast maybe 40 years ago and again this year, so anticipation was enormous.
The kakapo is one of New Zealand's most endangered birds. There's 142 adults in the entire world. They are a very charismatic bird. All sorts of interesting little personality quirks that you get to know when you work with these birds. But what's really unique about them is that they are a nocturnal parrot. They're also a very large parrot and they also live a very long time.
Kakapo are only found on sanctuary islands because of stoats and cats and dogs which have wiped them off the mainland. When I first flew in, I would say that my eyes boggled. It was like dropping into Jurassic Park, the intense thick forest. It's so steep. You get such an impressive view of it that it pretty much blows your mind.
Auckland Zoo's had a long relationship with the kakapo recovery team in providing the veterinary services to that program. If there's ever an unwell adult, then they come to our hospital for treatment. So our main involvement, of course, is every breeding season. We've had Auckland Zoo staff involved with every single chick. Between us here at the veterinary department at Auckland Zoo as well as our bird team, we've contributed 2,000 hours.
In our case, we're bringing zoo skills to the project, which means we've got all our hand rearing skills, our incubation skills, our bird health check skills. Coming together with all the doc skills, we can really progress the management of this species even further.
This year's breeding season broke a lot of records. So it was the biggest breeding season in terms of the number of chicks we got. It was the earliest breeding season as well as the latest on record. During breeding season, obviously on the island it's extremely busy. The day usually started about 5:30 in the morning where we'd go and boil the kettle ready to have nice clean water to make up the chicks' feed for the day. The smallest chicks actually get fed 10 times a day every 2 hours between 6 a.m. and midnight. Obviously we're doing veterinary diagnostics on the sick chicks, so that might involve taking a crop sample or a fecal sample and looking at that under the microscope. I was also involved in assist hatching chicks. It was something we would have to intervene potentially quite quickly.
Double clutching with birds is a really good technique if you're wanting to boost the population quicker than would naturally happen. With the big rimu mast this year, it made total sense to give it a go with the kakapo this year. What double clutching means is every time the birds lay a clutch of eggs, you pull that clutch of eggs and shut down their nest with the idea that they'll quickly go and relay a new nest and lay more eggs, and that's exactly what happened.
We incubate the first lot of eggs, then the mums are able to sit on the second lot of eggs, and that means that in the end we have double the amount of chicks for the season, which is incredible. When you consider the size of the population, this is a major increase to the species.
When we started seeing those numbers creep up, everyone was so excited that we could have this boomer year that everyone had been predicting.
All eggs that are laid by kakapo mums are actually taken from the nest and artificially incubated in little incubators on the island. And the mum is given back a dummy egg, a fake egg to sit on, and she doesn't know it's not the real egg. And the reason they do this is just to protect those eggs from various things that might happen in the nest. So once the chick is hatched, the ultimate aim is usually to get it back into a nest under mum, because we know that chicks do better in that natural situation. It's the same in all species.
So I remember the first chick that I took back to a nest It was really exciting. Each nest is set up with a lot of equipment. There's a camera in there, there's cables leading to a tent about 50 metres away, which means when you get to the tent site, you can plug in a monitor and you can tell if mum is on the nest or not. There's also sensors at the nest, so when mum enters and leaves the nest, it sets off a ding-dong. You then know it's time and that you can then go to the nest because mum isn't there. You're trying to have minimal disturbance when mum is there. So we heard the ding-dong, we knew Rakiura had left the nest, walked to the nest, open up the big hatch, and there's just a dummy egg there, so a fake egg that Rakiura has been sitting on. So we switched out the fake egg. I think the chick was maybe, when we put it back, maybe 2 days old, so it's like 30 grams. It's like really little, fluffy, white. It's pretty cute. So we went back to the tent site and watched on the little monitor. And lo and behold, Rakiura comes back, feeds the chick perfectly as if it was totally normal to have a chick in her nest. Success, yeah, that was the first chick to return to a nest on Whenua-Hou, and we were patting our backs that we had done a pretty good job.
Once the chicks are born, the first 5 days you go out every night while the mum has left the nest. You'll walk out for 2 hours to a nest to do a 5-minute health check. You might wait about half an hour. You will go check the nest and then you might hike back for 2 hours in the middle of the night, or we might stay out at the nest all night. Basically, we find out when the mothers leave the nest. Once she's left, we'll go do a health check on the chick because we don't want to disturb the mothers. We want to give them every chance to do really well with looking after their own chicks.
If there isn't a nest that would be suitable for the chick to go into, or if the chick's had any health problems, then the team will make the call to hand rear that chick. When we are hand rearing chicks, we're essentially the chick's mother. A lot of that involves keeping the chick at an appropriate temperature, making sure they're comfortable, as well as obviously meeting their nutritional needs.
You're up. Well done.
After 2 weeks, I was totally sleep deprived and buzzing from what had happened. It's a 24-hour operation with little rest and no days off, but you just keep going because of the buzz of it's boomer breeding season, we've got to just keep going. I think I was most useful on the island when I was able to hand rear chicks and help with difficult hatches of eggs. That's what I've been doing for my whole career as a zookeeper, and able to transfer those skills to a really threatened bird like the kakapo made me realise that everything I've done since becoming a zookeeper has almost led me to this and taught me so many skills that have been so useful.
Hey matey, is your wings sorted? Good man. When I went to vet school, I wanted to make a difference, and now that I work at the zoo, that difference I think is in conservation. It's about inspiring others to care about wildlife, but it's also about getting out there and really helping a species.
I became a zookeeper for all the extra things that come with being a zookeeper. Making a difference, even if it's just a small part. I was this really tiny cog in a big machine of trying to help out this breeding season, but I've learnt skills within zoos that can help wild populations, and that's what I want from my career.
Just to be able to be out there in the bush and saving them is amazing. I love it so much. No matter how hard each trip is, you come back with a big smile on your face. Having a big, booming population on the mainland would be amazing. It would mean that Predator 2050 has been achieved, that we've got rid of all the stoats, we've got cats under control. We could sit on our deck and listen to these incredible birds right at our doorstep, which is just a shame that in our lifetime, really only researchers and passionate people who want to help the kakapo will be the only ones that will see it.
This is a bird that is so charismatic. People do know about it, yet it is still on the brink of extinction. If we're still having to work so hard to maintain a bird that is so interesting to the general public, imagine all the work we've got to do to save, which are just as important, all the species, all the plants that the general public maybe don't have as much of an affinity with. I believe it's something that everybody can make a difference. Conservation shouldn't just be for the scientists working in it, it's for everybody to enjoy, because it means if we conserve a species, it means more people can enjoy that species out in the wild. At the minute they're only on offshore islands and the public aren't really seeing them, yet they're still so excited about saving this species. So it just proves that the New Zealand public are so passionate about their own wildlife, and rightly so.
If we in New Zealand lost a species, such an iconic species as the kakapo, it would be absolutely devastating. And I think as New Zealanders we do have some responsibility. Hopefully one day we get to the stage that kakapo don't need our help and they can thrive in the absence of human intervention. You could plant a rimu tree in your backyard and maybe one day that will be home to a kakapo.